All right, so I'm just gonna say it. Belle Delphine belongs in jail. Her boyfriend, and maybe even the guys giving her money. Uh, the guys giving her money, I might let off with a fine and a removal of internet access for a year or two, maybe three, and with required counseling. I don't know if that's always the best way to go about it, but these guys need a little bit of counseling and manning up. Maybe mandatory testosterone checks. Excuse me, injections. And yeah, so I'm gonna explain where I'm coming at this from. Right, I'm gonna say this with it's gonna sound weird, but it'll make sense in a minute. I don't want to get mugged when I'm an old man, by my neighbor, Section 8 housing neighbor who, has a brood of, 25 kids from 15 to 30 different guys. Who knows, right? Try to figure out the math on that, you know, but I don't want that, right? What I want is societal stability. And that's the only way a society can function long term, right? You can't just think about yourself. You can't just think about the here and now. You have to think about the long term because we're all going to get old. We're all going to be vulnerable throughout our lives at different points, but especially when we're old, right? And we're going to leave this world behind to the next generation. And what's the quote, right? I don't want to leave. Great men leave or plant trees under whose shade they will never sit, but under whose shade their grandchildren will, right? And so this is kind of my thought process in this, right? And I'm not a libertarian. I'm not for this hedonistic, just do what you want, do what thy will, that's the whole of the law kind of stuff. That's obviously not a good thing. And, I don't know. Let me give you an example, right? I remember a comment I just read like a day or two ago, and it was about, I don't know, some degenerate. I was on a video about degeneracy, but this guy is like said, hey, I'm 64, atheist his whole life, and he said, after all the stuff he's been seeing recently, he finally just stopped and started reading the Bible, and it's like, man, gosh, maybe I was wrong on all that, on my whole thought process, my whole life. And he's like, this is the only thing that even makes sense anymore. Just looking at this transsexuals like exposing themselves. I don't know if you guys saw that picture, some transsexual guy during I don't know why, but it's apparently an American value. George Washington would have died for this, for men pretending to be women to expose themselves to children in libraries, right? That's the conservative value in another 5 years. Don't worry. I mean, they've already got Lady Maga or whatever, which is some guy dressed in drag. But so I reject that mainstream conservatism. They don't conserve anything. I reject the liberal, do what thy will. I reject libertarianism for the same principle. It has no moral grounding. It doesn't work. You can't just allow people to do what they want. It's the same libertine, same thing. You do have to have controls, right? You do have to have a sense of morality, and morality is, and this is something that's very important to talk about when referring to this kind of stuff, right? Is Belle Delphine is basically, at least as far as I understand it, preying on desperate guys who, yes, they're responsible, not denying that, but her behavior is unacceptable, right? She's preying on these people. It's like somebody preying on elderly people or people who are desperate, who don't have normal human connections. And what she's doing is basically accepting money from people like that, right? And this isn't, my understanding, she actually interacts with these people. She sends them pictures based on what they pay her and things like that. And so, they're looking for that companionship. They're looking, because, again, they could look at porn, right? But they're looking at her. They're looking at somebody who actually interacts with them. And it's probably partly her boyfriend, just to upset some of you guys. But, looking at the long term, right? This is not acceptable behavior. This is not societally building behavior or societal building behavior. This is not something that will maintain a society for very long because we can't just do what we want. It was Sir Arthur Glubb, I think the name was. It was a British who moved, I think, to the Middle East, wrote about the fall of nations or fall of empires, and I think is a 26-page essay. It's very fascinating reading. But he brings up in this that anyone who belongs to any group, right? Anyone who belongs to a group of some sort, whether it's just whatever. Think you belong to some club or group. Every member has to give up some amount of autonomy. They have to some degree subordinate themselves to the group just for the group to be able to function. Otherwise, it can't work, right? Because everyone would just be going off in their own direction. Everyone would be doing their own thing, and that's just not how things can rationally work, right? Imagine trying to run a business, imagine trying to do anything with 15 people trying to each go in a separate direction. It won't stand, right? And this type of behavior we're seeing, like the Belle Delphine behavior, what do you think is going to happen when she has kids? What do you think is going to happen when she gets older, right? Her sexual market value is used up. She's a blatant narcissist. How is that going to work out, right? She's going to become what, a really bitter cat lady who works for like Jezebel maybe, and writes all these nasty articles. That's really good. Poisons the next generation of women. Poisons herself, or she ends up like a single mom, or maybe even if she can keep a guy, she's going to have a really damaged children because of what a rampant narcissist she is, right? And this is the behavior she's modeling, right? Because her behavior right now is showing, oh, it's okay to do this. It's legal. Hey, she's successful in getting attention, so hey, other girls, you can do this too, right? And again, it's the same thing that leads to, right? It leads to the single motherhood. Like 80% of people in prison right now come from single mom households, right? Excuse me, single parent, but let's be honest, single motherhood. So, and I have a friend, right? Recently, he not recently, a little while back, he was dating a girl, and he basically for like a few days, and she went and they didn't, they knew each other from a place they frequent, but she basically stayed at his house for like 3 days, and she lived with one of her parents, you can guess which, and was just allowed to stay at his house for like 3 days, like, and he was saying, yeah, I kind of thought that was weird, like, her parent wasn't like, no, that's not okay, you can't do that, that's not moral, that's not good. The mom was just like, oh, whatever. And he's like, and she turns out she's all crazy. She's got this, dysfunctional childhood, lack of a strong family support system, and just total nightmare. She's gonna ruin her own children's lives, and it's horrible, right? And who the hell wants to live in a society like that just because you want to play video games all day and pay some whore? Well, yeah, but I get to see her kind of naked. That's really cool, right? I might get to see her naked. Maybe when she starts to become a little less attractive, she'll actually finally take her clothes off. Maybe I'll get a chance, so it's totally worth it. It's like, guys, what the hell is wrong with you? And yeah, she belongs in jail. This is not acceptable behavior, right? Because we have to have some degree of morality in society just for anything to function. And morality is not, I didn't kill somebody, or I didn't physically hurt somebody, or I didn't steal something, or I didn't damage somebody's property. Morality is well beyond that. You might want to take a little bit of time to crack open a Bible if you're from the West, or look at other, even, if you want, look at other religions too, and what morality is. Because, if you look, hey, what's a sin? Well, murder. Oh, see the 10 Commandments. Murder's in there. See, I didn't murder anyone. I didn't lie. I didn't kill anyone. But see, wait, what was that? Was that lying? Was that lying? You didn't steal, didn't murder, but have you ever lied? Have you ever bared false witness? See, that's a little bit more of a nuance. That's not just not hurting somebody physically. That's not damaging their reputation. That's not saying falsehoods about them, right? That's not distorting the truth. That means you have to have a fidelity to reality. And look up any good videos about Christianity. I think Vox Day did a couple. And all these atheists who are just, we're atheists are just so moral too, and blah, blah. And they're just like, they're just losing their minds over him saying, basically Christianity is one of the most important pillars of Western civilization, which is true. But if you look, they just can't move beyond the, well, I didn't do anything bad. I haven't hurt anyone, so I'm moral. And this is the confusion most people have, right? Is what she's doing moral? Is it moral, for example, to accept money from people who are in a bad state, are in a bad position in life, are maybe depressed, they have a lack of connection, they have a lack of belonging, they feel like the world's ignoring them, think of the recent Joker movie, they don't have a connection to anything that gives their sense of life, or their life, a sense of purpose, right? I worked at a store a few years ago where this woman would always come in, and, it was just sad. This woman didn't really have like normal human connections, and so you could tell that's why she was always coming in to just interact with people. And I've seen that over the years here and there, especially with older people, but even people who are just like middle aged, right? Just because they don't have like a healthy connection with other people, and they don't know how to establish that, and it's hard, right? It's hard to find people that you can connect with. But when you encourage this behavior where these guys are just staying online, giving their money, where they're spending their time either at work or giving this whore money, which is bad for her too, but it's bad for them, right? This is not money that they're investing into their family. It's not money they're investing into their community. They're not investing in anything important. They're basically working their ass off to throw their money to a whore. And they're not even getting sex out of it, right? Which I guess at least that prevents the STD spreads, but this is really screwing up their brains. For a lot of these guys, it's apparently damaged their relationships. And how is that good for society, right? How is that good? How is living under any of that good, right? And I'm not throwing stones saying I couldn't be susceptible to this. I may well could be, um, but I don't know. I don't think I would be. I'd hope not, and I'd hope most people wouldn't be. But there are people out there who are in that position, like elderly people, like those people who can't form proper connections or have had issues in their life, who instead of investing that time fixing their issues, trying to invest and develop good, healthy, normal relationships with people, are investing it into this. And what future do you think you're going to have with this? And you know what? Screw it. I think there was a fantastic recent article from, gosh, what was it, revolving around China. You know, let's see. Here we go. Vox Day put this up. Really appreciate this. Great article. Ascendancy versus degeneracy. In case you still haven't accepted that China is going to surpass the United States as the leading global power before the middle of the 21st century yet, consider the difference between the moral trajectory of the two societies. Okay. From budgeting for rural weddings to dressing appropriately and avoiding online porn, China's Communist Party has issued new guidelines to improve the moral quality of its citizens. Officials have released several sets of guidelines this week alongside a secretive conclave of high-ranking officials in Beijing, which discusses the country's future direction. Right? On Sunday, the government published the outline for the implementation of citizen moral construction in the new era, which advises readers on how to use the internet, raise children, celebrate public holidays, and behave while traveling abroad. The guidelines from Central Commission for Guiding Cultural and Ethical Progress calls for building Chinese spirit, Chinese values, Chinese power. The text urges citizens to avoid pornography and vulgarity online, and to follow correct etiquette when raising the flag or singing the national anthem. Public institutions like libraries and youth centers must carry out targeted moral education to improve people's ideological awareness and moral standards according to the rules. These guidelines also stresses the guideline also stresses patriotism and loyalty to the motherland. People who have a servile attitude to foreign countries, damage national dignity, and sell national interests must be disciplined according to the law, it says. Let's see. It's more than a little ironic. It's more than a little ironic, a little bit down ways. Vox Day points out it's a little more than a little ironic where Christians failed to heed the warnings of Jesus Christ and the Apostle Paul. Confucians, and they are Confucians, not communists, no matter what they officially happen to call themselves, are aware of the danger of permitting a foreign nation to invade and invert their society. Even more impressive, instead of waiting passively for the next attack, they have launched a systematic campaign to seize the strongholds of their long-term rivals and enemies. Which society, right? And somebody tried to challenge him on this and, basically say, the Chinese are horrible, blah, blah, blah. And he brought this up, right? Vox Day responds, blah, blah, blah. And they focus on Asian studies. It's not the Chinese before, seen in the comments. And apparently, let's see, Queen, soldier. Okay. Xi is not Deng is not Mao. It is readily apparent to even the most casual observer that China and the US are on different moral trajectories. One society is trying to encourage people to get married, take pride in their nation, and stop spitting in public. The other is trying to encourage drag queen reading hour, soldiers in hills, and surgical sexual mutilation. One society is punishing those who have a servile attitude to foreign countries. The other has made it a criminal offense to refuse to criticize or refuse to buy from a certain foreign country, Israel. One society is proudly nationalist, the other silences, disemploys, and attacks its nationalists. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, which society is going to last, right? And if you if you live in the West, you might want to start caring about what's going to happen to you because you're going to get old, and when you're old, you can't defend yourself as well, right? In a lot of, Western societies, like where she lives, the spell, you don't have gun rights. Knifing is a huge issue. So, I mean, yeah, if you don't give a shit, then just die already. Go, if you're one of those people who doesn't care what happens, and you're, oh, whatever, well, why not just throw yourself off a bridge? I mean, just screw it. Do it. Do it. Really, I mean, kill yourself then. If that's how you feel, I'm not actually advocating for people to do that. But, because I don't think that's allowed. But so I'm not really advocating for that. But why bother living if you're going to do that, right? If you're only going to encourage bad things in the world, and then go, well, there's so much bad in the world, just how it is. Why bother living at that point? What's the point in your life? You have a pointless, meaningless existence. And again, look at the Chinese example, right? They wouldn't tolerate this. Most moral, sane societies are societies that want to have some sense of morality, direction, pride, and goodness and beauty in the world. Do not tolerate this stuff in large quantities, at least. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, we're all going to get old, and, I don't want to be surrounded by bronies and weirdo people living next to me doing weird shit like this, selling their bathwater. I mean, it's just gross, I don't want to get shot because her creepy stalkers that she's attracting, get the dress wrong. Oh, I think that's her house, I don't know, and I don't want that. I don't want to be in the house next to her or somebody like her who's got creepy stalkers floating around or ex-boyfriends who are like psychotic. I don't know. That's just me though. I would like a nice society where things are boring, but people know each other. There is a strong sense of community, a strong sense of bond, and you're not being threatened constantly over that. So,